If you feel like you're always on the verge of a mental breakdown, trying to stay in control while anxiety takes over, this video could be the turning point you need. Today you're going to discover 13 Stoic lessons capable of reprogramming your mind, changing your internal state, and aligning you with a new version of yourself, stronger, centered, and unshakable. Stoicism is not philosophical theory, it's a practical tool for self-mastery. And if you apply what you're about to learn here, you'll stop being a hostage to your thoughts and begin to take charge of your life with presence and clarity. Each lesson is like a blade. It cuts through stagnation and forces you out of mediocrity. But it only works if you have the courage to act now. So go ahead and hit like now. That shows you're ready to evolve. And take a moment to subscribe. Plenty of people watch videos but don't subscribe. And then they miss out on content that could change everything. Tap the bell. Because today, what you're about to hear might be exactly what your future self will thank you for learning now. You can spend your whole life trying to push the wind, but the wind won't change direction just because you want it to. That's the first brutal truth Stoicism presents us, and perhaps the most liberating one. What lies outside your control is not your concern, but what lies within you, that is your direct responsibility. Epictetus was shouting this centuries ago, and almost nobody listens. Your actions, your reactions, your judgments, they alone are within your power. And yet many waste energy trying to change other people, the past, or what fate has already sealed. Madness? No. The human condition on autopilot. The anxious person lives in a world of external variables. They suffer over unanswered messages, shifting weather, looks they don't understand. They exist outside themselves as if the world must conform to their internal script. But if you seek self-mastery, the first step is to understand this distinction with ruthless clarity. Emotional control isn't anesthesia, it's intelligence, knowing that your mind is the only territory you can truly master. Everything else is scenery, and scenery constantly changes. If you anchor your peace to what changes, anxiety becomes inevitable. Stop now and think, what is stealing your peace today? Draw 2 columns. What depends on you, and what doesn't? That's simple, practical, visual. If it doesn't depend on you, let it go. Let it go with strength, with courage, with presence. This isn't escapism, it's rationality. This is focus on the present, where real decisions are made. Because while your mind is busy trying to solve what isn't its business, it weakens your mental discipline, your presence, and your courage to act where it truly matters. Do you really want psychological growth? Then stop playing chess with fate. That only wears you out. Instead, channel your energy into actions that can yield results. That's where real power lives, in choosing where to place your attention. This lesson is the foundation of all personal development. Without it, you'll keep banging your head against the wall and blaming the world for your suffering. But relax. If this stung, that's great. It's working. Let's move on to the next Stoic truth. Most people wake up each day as if life owes them something, and that's why they panic at any unexpected event. Stoicism, with the surgical coldness of Marcus Aurelius, proposes the opposite. Visualize the worst that could happen every single day. That's not pessimism. It's mental preparation. Visualizing loss doesn't attract pain. It summons courage. It summons acceptance. It summons presence. When you train your mind to face fear head-on, you become larger than it. When loss arrives, and it always does, you won't be caught off guard. You'll be strong. You'll be ready. Imagine for a moment losing what you love most. A relationship, your health, your freedom. Does that paralyze you? Perfect. It means you have too much attachment. And where there is blind attachment, there is emotional vulnerability. Practicing negative visualization is cultivating the antidote to fragility. It's mentally rehearsing chaos so that when chaos actually arrives, you have a plan, an attitude, a lucid response. That is self-mastery. That is mental discipline. That is not being a hostage to anxiety, but the master of your own axis. The practice is simple and brutal. Before you sleep, close your eyes and ask, what do I fear losing above all else? Now imagine life without it. Feel the impact. Notice the thoughts that arise. Then calmly ask yourself, if this happened, could I survive? Could I start over? The answer is almost always yes, but the anxious mind lies. It tells you that the end of something is the end of everything, and negative visualization destroys that pattern. You teach your mind that pain is not the end. It's a transition. This Stoic practice isn't comfortable, but it's transformative, because it tears you from the illusion of permanence. It shows you that everything you have is on loan, and when you accept that with maturity, anxiety begins to weaken, fear loses its throne, and silent gratitude, the kind born of realizing impermanence, starts to blossom. If you do this exercise sincerely, you'll see. What once seemed unbearable was just attachment in disguise. Now, let's go deeper. Being present seems too simple to be powerful, but there lies most people's mistake. The anxious person lives in two places, the future that hasn't come, or the past that can't be changed. And between those two chasms, they forget the only place life truly happens, the now. Stoicism invites us to a radical commitment to the present. Marcus Aurelius said, "True life is lived moment to moment. Ignoring that is living an illusion, living half a life, suffering twice as much." Want to regain emotional control? Start by mastering your attention. When your mind drifts, bring it back. When thoughts accelerate, breathe and return to your body. This isn't mysticism. It's practical philosophy. It's emotional survival strategy. Presence cuts anxiety at the root. Because when you're truly present, fear of tomorrow doesn't paralyze you. The past doesn't define you. Reality ceases to be a threat and becomes a concrete field of action where you can finally act, change, transform. Use daily life as your training ground. Wash the dishes paying attention to the water running. Walk feeling the ground under your feet. Listen to someone with genuine interest without preparing your mental response while they speak. That is focus on the present. That is inner silence. And only in that space can self-mastery flourish. The anxious mind wants to flee, but the Stoic remains. Steady, attentive, unshakable. Being in the now is an act of courage because it demands you abandon escape and face life directly. Want an immediate exercise? Grab paper and pen and write, "Where am I now?" Then, "What am I feeling exactly?" Then, "Is this reality or projection?" With each honest answer, you land a little more. You step out of the anxiety whirlwind and land in the only place peace can grow. Presence doesn't eliminate problems, it makes you strong enough to face them. Because while you wander through what-ifs, real life keeps passing, and it waits for no one. Shall we continue? The pain you feel doesn't come from what happens to you. It comes from what you tell yourself about what happens. This is one of Stoicism's sharpest truths, and also one of the most neglected. When an event occurs, it's neutral, simple, raw. Then enters your mind, your ego, your traumas, your filters, and everything gets distorted. A delay becomes rejection. Silence becomes a threat. Criticism becomes a personal attack. And without realizing it, you feed anxiety with invented stories, not reality. Epictetus taught, "It's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them." So tell me, how many times have you created suffering by over-interpreting? By projecting the worst? By reacting to what you thought was happening, not what actually happened? That isn't rationality. It's self-sabotage disguised as lucidity. The path to self-mastery demands you cut those interpretations at the root. Observe facts like a scientist. Cold, clear, steady. When something irritates or shakes you, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what really happened here? What are the facts without drama? Then ask, what am I adding with my thoughts? This exercise is simple but uncomfortable, because it reveals how you manufacture suffering where none was needed. It returns power to you but demands responsibility. And the anxious mind hates responsibility because it prefers to blame the world rather than face its own patterns. Want to grow psychologically? Then stop being a puppet of your emotional interpretations. That isn't coldness. It's freedom. Because when you learn to see facts clearly, you act better. You decide with more focus. You live with more lightness. You begin to realize that many of the pains you carried weren't real. They were poorly told narratives nobody dared to question. Until now. Ready for the next surgical cut to anxiety? When the mind starts speeding up, you need something to bring it back. Fast, precise, practical. That's where mental anchors come in. Short, powerful, repetitive phrases that work like emergency brakes. Stoicism gifted us dozens of them. Short and to the point. Endure and abstain. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. This, too, shall pass. When you internalize these anchors, they become mental shields in moments of emotional turbulence. Anxiety loves long, chaotic narratives. It entangles you in disorganized thoughts, catastrophic predictions, internal arguments that never end. But a short phrase, spoken with conviction, breaks that cycle. It acts like a sword slicing through illusion. And the more you repeat it, the more your mind associates that phrase with presence and emotional control. That is training. That is mental discipline. That is using words as tools of focus, not fuel for fear. Right now, choose a Stoic phrase to call your own. Write it on paper. Stick it on your bathroom mirror, on the back of your phone case, on your computer screen. Every time your mind veers off course, repeat it. Aloud if you can. With firmness. With presence. With intention. This isn't self-help. It's an internal warfare strategy. It's seizing the reins of your own narrative in a world pushing you constantly outward. Want a practical example? On the brink of an anxiety attack? Close your eyes and say, "Nothing external has power over me." Repeat it until your body feels it, until your mind understands it's safe. That's the magic of repetition. It rewrites patterns. And if you think it's too simple, consider how many destructive phrases you repeat daily without noticing. It's time to flip the script. Now let's move to the next point of impact. When the mind collapses, the first instinct is to seek answers. But the true Stoic knows, it's not the answer that frees you. It's the right question. Powerful questions are keys. They don't tell you what to do, but they open doors you didn't know were locked. Anxiety, on the other hand, is an infinite loop of wrong questions. What if it fails? What if they abandon me? What if I mess up? And the worst part, those questions stem from fear, not awareness. Want out of that cycle? Change the question. Instead of "Why is this happening to me?" let's ask, "What is this trying to show me?" Instead of "What if everything goes wrong?" try, "What if I can handle this even while afraid?" That is Stoicism in action. That is psychological growth. Because each question filled with presence breaks a layer of suffering. Each new perspective lightens what once seemed unbearable. It's like refocusing a lens. What seemed monstrous becomes manageable. Here's a direct exercise. Whenever you feel stuck by an anxious thought, write 3 alternative questions. Do it with pen and paper. That activates the brain more deeply. For instance, what can I control right now? What's the worst that could happen, and could I survive it? What will this mean 5 years from now? Done. You've just pulled your mind out of an emotional collapse and placed it in a stance of rational self-mastery. True personal transformation doesn't come from ready-made answers. It comes from those brave enough to ask the hard questions. The painful ones. The ones that dismantle the ego. The ones that reveal truths you've been avoiding too long. And if you've made it this far, it's because you're ready for that kind of confrontation. So tell me, which question have you been avoiding? Take a deep breath, because the next point will dig even deeper. Anxiety feeds on avoidance. The more you evade what you fear, the stronger it gains over you. Stoicism doesn't advocate eliminating fear. It advocates facing it head-on, with open eyes and a steady heart. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is bearable, bear it. If not, it is already past." And that changes everything. Fear grows only when you observe it from a distance. But when you come into direct contact with it, with full presence, it proves smaller than it seemed. Presence differs from brute force. It's full attention. It means being wholly in the moment, even trembling, heart racing. Self-mastery is born there, from the decision not to back down. And the truth is, most of what paralyzes you today isn't the event itself, but the panic you anticipate. The fear of fear. The phantom of possibility. Your mind shows you a movie, and you believe it's real, but it hasn't happened yet. It might never happen. Courage lies in interrupting that movie and looking directly at what's here now. Try this. Pick a situation that's been blocking you for weeks. Now, breathe deeply and step into it. Gradually, consciously, present. It might be a difficult conversation, a decision you've postponed, a place you avoid. Go there, but go with presence. Focus on your body, the air you inhale and exhale, the thoughts that arise, and don't identify with them. Just observe. That is the essence of Stoicism. It's not feeling. It's not succumbing to what you feel. Want freedom? Then face it. Because whatever you avoid grows, and whatever you confront loses power. Presence is your shield. Fear is inevitable. Cowardice is optional. Psychological growth demands exposure, demands discomfort, and you're ready, because the next step in this journey will shake what you tell yourself every day, and that you may never have questioned. The voice that wounds you most is your own. It's not what others said, it's what you repeat, tirelessly, in the silent echo of your mind. Stoicism isn't just about facing the outside world, it's about re-educating your inner voice, the one that calls you weak when you fail, the one that says you'll never succeed every time you try something new. That voice isn't yours, it's a bad copy of experiences, traumas, fears, and patterns you never truly questioned. Epictetus was clear, no one is free who is not master of themselves. And becoming your own master starts with observing what you tell yourself daily. Self-mastery begins when you stop attacking your mind and start choosing, consciously, thoughts that uplift you, not degrade you. This isn't toxic positivity, it's mental hygiene. Because nobody grows in a hostile internal environment. And if you treat your mind like a battleground, there will be no peace, only exhaustion. Want to change that? Simple but brutal. For 1 week, jot down every time your mind attacks you. Write down the exact phrases, then respond to each as you would to a dear friend in pain. You'll realize how absurd your self-treatment is. You'll see you demand perfection of yourself that you never demand of anyone else. You'll understand much of your anxiety stems from this insane drive to be always better, faster, stronger, as if being human were a crime. When you transform that internal dialogue, everything changes. Your posture, your energy, your discipline, because you're no longer fighting yourself, you're walking alongside yourself, and that creates an invaluable inner silence, a space where you can breathe, reflect, fortify, and it's in that space true resilience is born. But there's more. Now you'll learn to use discomfort as a path to healing. You don't build resilience in comfort, but neither do you build it in collapse. The secret is progressive exposure. Just as a muscle strengthens with controlled strain, the mind strengthens by consciously facing small doses of discomfort. Stoicism invites us to that every day. Marcus Aurelius didn't preach fleeing pain but facing it strategically. Mental discipline requires practice. Practice requires discomfort. No excuses. No shortcuts. Anxiety is often panic in the face of discomfort you never confronted. It's your body reacting in terror to situations your mind always avoided. But when you intentionally expose yourself to what provokes you, something shifts. Gradually, what seemed impossible becomes tolerable, then normal, then insignificant. That's the magic of gradual exposure. It's taking charge of your biology. It's watching fear lose ground. It's personal development in practice, not theory. Want to apply this now? Choose a small, uncomfortable action you've been avoiding. Waking up earlier, initiating a tough conversation, practicing silence in chaos, making a decision you've delayed. Now commit to taking just one step in that direction. Just one. Today. And tomorrow, another. It's not about speed. It's about repetition. Because resilience isn't built on intensity. It's built on consistency, on presence, on conscious action, day after day. When you face discomfort with courage and strategy, it stops being a monster and becomes a teacher. It reveals the strength you had. You just weren't using it. The discipline that lay latent. The focus the fear had drowned. And that strength, once awakened, never goes back to sleep. But there's a deeper layer. Unavoidable pain. The kind you don't choose. And it too has something to teach. Want to evolve but reject pain? Then you're still trapped in the illusion of transformation without sacrifice. Stoicism severs that fantasy at the root. Pain is not failure, not punishment. It's part of the journey. It's the price of expansion. Marcus Aurelius endured illness, betrayal, and family losses while ruling an empire, and still said, "Life is what your nature makes it." And none of this is against nature. In other words, pain isn't destroying you. It's revealing you. What hurts you today can be what strengthens you tomorrow if you let it. The anxious mind wants to rid itself of discomfort as quickly as possible. But the wise observe, feel, stay, learn. They know suffering, faced with rationality and presence, transforms into power. Not power over others, but power over oneself. A silent, unshakable power. The kind that comes from self-mastery, not resistance. Acceptance isn't passivity. It's force in its purest form. Here's a Stoic exercise. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this pain trying to show me? Sit with that discomfort. Breathe into it. Give it a name. Write about it. Don't run. Dive in. It's in that immersion that you find layers of yourself you never accessed. And it's there the true psychological growth resides, the kind that doesn't come from books or motivational videos, but from life lived with courage. Accepting pain as part of the path is no longer being a slave to circumstances. It's freeing yourself from the victim role. It's looking at suffering and saying, you will not define me, you will refine me. This is Stoicism in its rawest and most liberating form. But one ingredient remains, how you treat yourself in the process. That will be our next step. Could you tolerate living with someone who criticizes you constantly? Who points out every mistake, mocks your falls, and never acknowledges your effort? Probably not. Yet that's how you treat yourself. The anxious mind is ruthless. It demands perfection, punishes slips, and turns every failure into a final sentence. Stoicism offers another path, the path of rational compassion. Treating yourself kindly isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's emotional self-mastery. Epictetus said no one is ready for philosophy until they've learned to laugh at themselves. And laughing at yourself is also forgiving yourself. It's seeing your mistakes with human eyes, not the cruel ruler of the ego. Mental discipline isn't built on self-judgment. It's built on awareness. You must learn to be your own refuge, not your executioner, because growth requires failures. And each time you rise with strength and self-respect, something in you truly matures. A simple practice. Each time you err or fail, jot down 3 things you learned. Then say to yourself, aloud, I am learning. I am evolving. I am here. Repeat it like a mantra until your mind stops seeking punishment and starts seeking growth. This changes everything. It changes your energy. It changes how you show up in the world. You stop acting out of fear of failure and start acting out of desire to grow. It's liberating. Compassion toward yourself builds a solid foundation for overcoming. When you welcome yourself, you stop depending on external validation. You stop expecting the world to understand you. You understand yourself, and that is more than enough. But even with all that self-welcome, there's a line you can't cross. The line between what you want and what you simply can't change. And that's the next lesson. When the inevitable approaches, Stoicism teaches that resisting it is futile. Acceptance doesn't mean defeat, but dignified surrender. It's recognizing there are limits to human control. Self-mastery shows up as serenity before the unchangeable. Pain that arrives uninvited becomes a teacher in crisis. Even suffering has lessons to deliver if we open our hearts. Marcus Aurelius knew life brings unavoidable impermanence. With courage and inner silence, we face what cannot change. Psychological growth blooms when we accept right and wrong alike. Present focus and mental discipline unite to reframe every setback. Each moment of acceptance strengthens self-mastery and resilience. In that instant, rationality and courage join to face destiny with firmness, surrender with dignity, without pleading for an illusory victory. Anxiety dissolves when you understand not everything is under your control. Every step toward the inevitable is an invitation to personal development. Inner silence opens to reveal the true essence of self-mastery. The mind, often dominated by fear, learns to rest in presence. Epictetus already taught rationality conquers the illusion of total control. Practical philosophy shines in the courage to accept the impermanent. Suffering, lived in present focus, transforms into learning. Mental discipline grows by acknowledging the uncontrollable as part of life. Self-mastery and courage strengthen by embracing impermanence with serenity. Each inevitable challenge becomes an opportunity for growth and resilience. Thus, emotional control aligns with acceptance, turning pain into wisdom. Surrender is not weakness but refined inner strength. Accepting destiny is looking to the future with courage and clarity. Resistance to the unchangeable only feeds anxiety and fear. By surrendering with dignity, you turn the uncontrollable into opportunity. Rationality emerges by separating the transient from the eternal with present focus. Personal development advances when pain is faced with self-mastery. Short phrases like, "This too shall pass," serve as mental anchors in trying times. Inner silence reinforces emotional control and full presence. Each accepted fall teaches more about resilience than any forced victory. The teachings of Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus illuminate the path to face the inevitable. Courage shows itself not by denial, but by active acceptance of each reality. Surrender and watch self-mastery transform anguish into learning. Finally, dignified surrender is Stoicism's last great lesson. It dissipates anxiety, revealing the power of accepting the inevitable with clarity. Self-mastery solidifies when you understand the unavoidable is part of the journey. Inner silence strengthens when you face what cannot change. Each unchangeable obstacle offers an opportunity for personal growth. Mental discipline intensifies when you turn suffering into fuel for evolution. Suffering, when met with courage, becomes an ally in internal transformation. Surrender, but never give yourself over to passive resignation or mediocrity. Presence in the now turns despair into power and learning. Each conscious acceptance rewrites your inner narrative with resilience. Emotional control reaffirms itself as you embrace reality with firmness. Thus, the individual discovers in the inevitable the essence of true freedom. You spend the day on autopilot, reacting, stressing, trying to stay in control. But when night falls, you simply switch off as if nothing happened. That is the mistake that keeps you stuck. Stoicism invites us to do the opposite. End the day with a brutally honest review. Because without reflection there is no evolution. And whoever does not confront their own patterns repeats the same mistakes under different names, day after day. Marcus Aurelius did this. He wrote before bed. He examined his impulses, corrected his flaws, acknowledged his weaknesses. He was emperor of Rome, and even so, he paused to look within. And you? What are you waiting for? An emotional breakdown? An existential crisis? The anxious mind wants to keep you distracted. But the night's silence is the best moment to take command. That is where self-mastery is born. That is where you become the author of your own story. This practice is simple, but powerful. Take a notebook and write 3 questions. What threw me off balance today? Where did I act with courage and presence? If I repeat today's behavior for a year, who will I become? No excuses. Do it. Writing breaks the cycle of stagnation. When you record, you take responsibility. When you see on paper what you've been ignoring for years, something inside you awakens, and that is personal development in practice. By writing, you begin to see. You see where you're running away. You see repeating patterns. You see the triggers feeding your anxiety, and more. You start to realize that much of your suffering is a direct consequence of actions you repeat unthinkingly. Stoic reflection isn't for self-blame. It's for growth. With rationality, presence, and courage, this nightly review sharpens your mental discipline, because whoever observes learns, whoever learns adjusts, whoever adjusts evolves. Anxiety loses power because you stop reacting and start responding. You begin acting with intention. Each night you rewrite your identity, and little by little that old you, anxious, impulsive, lost, gets replaced by someone more stable, more lucid, more centered. The anxious mind lives in the future, but the stoic mind returns to the present through observation. By looking at what you did today, you plant what will grow tomorrow. This is present focus. This is self-mastery. Reflection doesn't demand hours. It demands presence. 10 minutes with the right question are worth more than weeks of distraction, because when you face your own actions with honesty, psychological growth becomes inevitable. And yes, it will hurt, because you'll discover where you're sabotaging yourself. You'll discover where you're betraying yourself. You'll discover that much of your suffering didn't come from outside. It came from choices you pretended not to see. But that is where transformation begins, when you stop lying to yourself. When you turn your days into a stoic training ground. No drama, no victimhood, only responsibility and reconstruction. In the end, whoever does not reflect repeats, and whoever repeats unconsciously remains trapped in mediocrity's cycle. If you truly want overcoming, presence, and emotional control, this practice must become part of your life. Today, not tomorrow, because how you end your day reveals the person you're becoming. And if that person still isn't who you want to be, then it's time to sit down, reflect, and begin again. If any of these 13 Stoic lessons shook you to your core, now I want to know, which one confronted you the most, and why? Comment below with your strongest insight or experience. That might inspire others to take the first step. And if this video made sense to you, subscribe now and activate notifications. Many forget and end up missing content that could truly transform how you think, feel, and respond to life. And don't go yet. The next recommended video on screen will deepen your self-mastery even further and show you how to apply Stoicism in moments of emotional crisis. Click now and continue your journey. See you next time. And remember, you don't control what happens, but you do control who you choose to be in the face of it all.